What is up, guys? Welcome back. We've made it all the way to episode 7. This week we're going to be adding in the flat ride that you see right in front of you. We're going to be adding in a new seating area to replace the building that we put in at the end of the main street last week, in our last episode. And we're going to be doing some final touches in the areas that we've already worked on before we move on to the next section next week. Now here we're working around our flat ride, this little airplane ride. Again, wanted to keep this area natural, make it look like it was placed in nature as they found it. And then I went ahead and put in some flowers and some plants around the ride and the queue. And as this time when I started doing some more research and looking at pictures of parks that you could actually go to, mainly Cedar Fair parks and Six Flags parks, and I was noticing how their flower beds, at least at Cedar Fair parks, Cedar Point in particular, tend to have a bunch of colors in one area, and then they'll leave a blank and a bunch of colors in one area, and I really like that, big splashes of color. So I started doing that in my flower beds in this episode, and you'll see that continue on through the next couple of episodes as we do some more scenery and plant work in our park. Now, some point between last episode and this episode, I started doing some research on one of the amusement parks that's local to me, that being Lakeside Amusement Park down in Denver. And initially I started looking at it because I really like their wooden coaster called the Cyclone that they have. It was built in 1940. I thought it'd be cool to do a recreation of that, so I started looking into that. And when I was looking at old pictures, I ran across an archive from the Denver Public Library that had old pictures and an article written up about it. So I started looking into that and looking at how the park was originally designed and comparing that to how it looks today. And I really fell in love with the way that the park used to look. The park opened in 1908, and it was originally a trolley stop, or it was a park at the end of the trolley line in Denver. It is one of 13 still existing trolley parks in the nation today, and I thought that was a really cool, interesting history fact. I'm going to put some pictures up on the screen to show you what I was talking about. This is a picture of the old Shoot the Chutes ride, but what I really like about this picture is how it shows how open the park is. Lots of greenery. This is another view. Lots of open space, lots of lights, lots of little pillars and towers and flags. And I took this and ran with this as inspiration for this section at the end of our midway. So the one thing that I took from that picture initially was how there was actually different levels. In the last picture I showed you, the level for the splash pond for the Shoot the Chutes ride was actually a good story or whatever above where you would walk into the park at. And I like that idea. It was an easy way to create levels here in the beginning. Now the hard part I found for this was trying to fit that look into this small area. This next picture is going to show you my reference for the little towers that I'm going to put in here on our seating area. I really liked the way that looked. I like the flags, and I like how it just made it look very elegant. Now what's sad is when I go back to the park today, it doesn't look nearly like it did back then, but you can still see signs of the original park. Now what was sad was this park was built in 1908, but they had a huge fire in 1911 that burned down half of the park, burning down the original roller coaster they had, which was a scenic railway that was over a mile long, which is incredible because that park is not very big. One thing I do like about the park that you still see today is all the flower beds. Now, they're not raised like the ones I'm putting in this park, but they are still there and they are kept up, and it makes it feel very homey and welcoming. You want to sit there and just spend the afternoon, even if you don't ride any of the rides. Now, if you remember back to the last picture I showed you, there was a bunch of those flags up on those little towers, and I really liked that idea. And when I initially looked for the flags, all I could find were these American flags or the blank billboard flags. So I went with these. The more I looked at it, I really didn't like the American flags because it made it feel very Boston 1700s, 1800s, like very, I didn't like it. So eventually I get rid of those and I change them out in a later episode when I find a suitable replacement. Now I did go ahead and put in some vista points and an entertainment point up here on the plaza to draw people up there, and I really like the way that looks once it's filled in with people, although I never see any entertainers up there, even though I did put in 2 of them. Going in and filling in some of the flower boxes here, I wanted these flower boxes to look very well kept, as if they were replaced every year with fresh flowers. So that's kind of the idea that I run with as I fill these in. Some other cool facts that I found out about Lakeside was when it originally opened, not only was it at the end of the trolley line, so it was a trolley park, but it had a casino, and it had an Olympic-sized swimming pool that was indoors. What was interesting was not only did it have the swimming pool, but it was on a lake that you could go swimming in. They would have live diving shows in the lake back when the park opened, and then you could go swimming either in the lake or you could go into the pool. Now back to our flower beds here. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, except for I knew I wanted to keep it fairly clean and simple. So I stuck with these red flowers on this side, and I changed them to blue on this side. Reason being is our wooden coaster has red accents and our inverted coaster is primarily blue. So I kind of try to do a little red to blue fade here in our flowers, which kind of works and I'm okay with. And overall, I really like the way that this whole area turned out. I'm super proud of it. Now I bring this picture back up again because I want you to take a good look at that building in the back there. This is going to be reference for some future work that I'm doing in this park. The right hand portion of that building was the casino, the part that was 2 stories, and then next to that was where the swimming pool was. But the main focus of that whole building was the tower. I can only imagine pulling up to the park in the trolley and seeing that tower lit up in all those lights like it was back in the day. Nowadays it's not so bright and shiny. There's still lights, but there's a lot of them burned out, and because the park's not very big, they don't have a lot of money to keep up as they used to. That whole look of that building is going to be inspiration for what I do in the future, so keep that in mind. Now moving on, we're just going to finish up some night lighting here because I don't want this area to be dark. I want it to be very welcoming and inviting, and I want you to sit up there. Now I think the rest of this video is going to be mostly filling in some of our blank areas, finishing up for some final details. I thought it would be cool to add a little light under here for the train, or for the wooden coaster, light up the tunnel a little bit since it's kind of dark. Fill in some spotlights on our midway so you can see where you're going, and keep it warm and welcoming. Now here I decided to change the color of that ride because when I was looking at it from a distance, that blue tower actually stuck out like a sore thumb, so I changed it to green, and I thought that blended in a lot better, especially with mountains and trees in the background. Now as I was rolling around our park, I noticed that the line for our invert was getting rather full and people couldn't get in line, so I decided to extend our queue line, which was actually rather difficult because I don't have a lot of room in this area. And I wanted to keep it with the same look as we did for the original queue line, so we stuck with the white walls and flower bed in between. Now, one thing I don't like about this is because I'm running out of room, that queue line gets awfully close to the lift hill for our invert. So I had to put in that roof there, not only for shade, but you know, in case somebody threw something off the ride. Again, this is America. People are stupid. Always got to plan for the worst. Now, I wanted this area to look like the plants up by the zipper or the kickflip or whatever it's called, to look like it had grown over and out onto a little roof there. So I tried to fill it in with the ivy and some creeping plants on the ground, but I didn't like the look of it, so I got rid of it. And again, over here, I noticed that a lot of people were not using the seating area, so I decided to try to attract them with some vending machines, and it works every once in a while, so I'm happy with the way that turned out. I wanted to put some food or something over here, but I didn't want to put in a building that would detract from our view across the lake, so the vending machines worked out. Alright guys, with that, we're going to leave you with some final screenshots. Don't forget to drop a like down below. Leave a comment if you liked anything in the episode. Still looking for names for our rides, so leave those down below. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see next week's episode. And with that, I thank you. See you next time.